during the Trump administration, Sarah Matthews, and Victoria Nurse, who served as chief counsel for then Vice President Joe Biden. Sarah, so you were one of the witnesses who testified before the House January 6th Select Committee. So you're aware of Trump's actions around the Capitol attack. Are you at all surprised to hear that the special counsel's case against Trump seems to be larger, involving more evidence and more witnesses than Trump's attorneys expected?
I don't think that's surprising at all. I think that they had access to different material that the congressional committee could not get access to, particularly witnesses. Obviously, we know that the vice president went before the grand jury in this case, and that wasn't something that happened with the January 6th committee. And so I think that they have reason to be worried, the Trump team, because I think that they will have even more evidence. And obviously the evidence that was uncovered in the January 6th committee hearings was really shocking, particularly Cassidy Hutchinson, my former colleague's testimony.
So, Victoria, according to the multiple outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, the target letter that Trump received on Sunday from Jack Smith says he could be charged with deprivation of rights, which might be, people are speculating, taking away the right to vote from other people.
The right to vote, yeah.
Conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States, which that's obvious, and tampering with a witness. What do these charges tell you about the case that the special counsel might have?
Well, let me just clarify one thing on tampering. That's the title of the statute, but it's really an obstruction statute that they're referring to.
Right. Their allegation being that Trump tried to stop their investigation in some ways.
Yes, in some ways. So I think these are pretty expected. The only twist, given the January 6th committee they're expected, the only twist is really the deprivation of rights, the conspiracy to deprive one of the voting rights. And that makes perfect sense. It's an old statute, 18 U.S.C. 242. And it's been here since Reconstruction, and it's often associated with rights not to be discriminated against. But voting rights, it's one of our most fundamental rights.
Sarah, I want to read you this reporting from the New York Times. Quote, subpoenas issued by Mr. Smith, that's a special counsel, suggest that he has been scrutinizing Mr. Trump's political action committee, Save America PAC. It raised as much as $250 million, telling donors the money was needed to fight election fraud, even as Mr. Trump had been told repeatedly that there was no evidence to back up those claims of election fraud. The House January 6th committee had also suggested that Mr. Trump and his associates had defrauded his own supporters. It described how after the election they appealed to donors as many as 25 times a day to help fight the results in court and contribute to a defense fund, but no such fund existed, and they used the money for other purposes, including spending more than $200,000 at Trump hotel properties. I mean, do you think that Donald Trump repeatedly takes advantage of his base?
Yeah, I think he preys on his supporters. He lies to them. And obviously that results in these people giving them money, thinking that, they're helping save democracy, all because they think that the election was stolen. Yet Trump has been told repeatedly there's no evidence of fraud, despite his claims that there was substantial fraud. And he was told repeatedly that he lost, but he is just unwilling to accept that fact. And so it is really disgusting to see him take advantage of his base in that way. And obviously that ultimately led to a deadly riot on our nation's capital. Those folks would not have been there that day unless Donald Trump told them that Mike Pence had an authority to overturn the election, which Trump was told Mike Pence did not have that authority. Right. Yet those people showed up because they were told that. And so they thought they were helping save our country. And so it is really sad and just frankly disgusting for him and anyone who is still associated with him.
Would that theoretically be breaking the law, telling people that telling supporters we're going to use this money to fight election fraud, even though you know there's no election fraud?
It's fraud. I mean, that's the essence of this. I mean, the fake elector scheme is fraud. And there's another aspect to this. You have to prove, if you're going to obstruct justice, that he acted with corruption. So there's a problem. Some people say, did he benefit from it? So that evidence will take away an important legal argument that was raised in some of the other January 6th indictments.
So in the target letter, Special Counsel Smith told Trump he had 4 days to appear before the grand jury if he wanted to present his case. This is kind of the last step before an indictment comes down usually. That's tomorrow. If you were advising Trump, would you tell him to go before the grand jury?
No.
Why not?
Well, because given what we've seen of his loquaciousness and tendency to dig himself into a deeper hole, as a lawyer, you want to protect your client. And so I would suggest that he stay away. Most lawyers are saying that in the press. Oftentimes defendants don't appear before the grand jury because it's only a probable cause. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. So he can make all sorts of legal arguments about the indictment moving forward. He can challenge the evidence. He doesn't really need to show up.
Sarah, you quit the Trump administration on January 6th, right? That was the day that you resigned. But I just want to ask you, and maybe this is an unfair question, did you think that Donald Trump preyed on his supporters and took advantage of his supporters before that? Or is that something that, and you were in denial about it and you looked back on it? And just explain that to me.
No, I knew that on election night that Donald Trump had lost. And I think that folks were still holding out hope, thinking that things would turn around, but obviously his litigation failed time and time again. I wanted to stay on with the Trump administration till the very end because I had made my boss that promise that I would, but ultimately it was a slow burn for me. I was disgusted by his lies about the election, and that obviously ended up with the deadly riot that happened on January 6th at the Capitol. And so looking back, I have some regrets about not speaking out sooner, but that's why I think it's so important that there are folks like myself, Alyssa Farah Griffin, Cassidy Hutchinson, et cetera, who are willing to call out these lies and falsehoods.
Absolutely. Sarah Matthews and Victoria Norris, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.